Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I'm reviewing the Sontronics Podcast Pro, which is a handmade microphone built here in the UK. This is not a sponsored video. I bought it with my own money from Guitar Digital. It's arrived last week, and in this video I've been putting it through its paces. I've got lots to show you, from the design quality to some sound examples in an untreated room, but first things first, all the audio in this video is recorded on the Podcast Pro with no post-processing. The microphone retails for £99, and for this price you get a hand-built microphone that's specifically tuned for voice applications, whether that's radio, podcast, gaming, streaming. The idea behind it is that you plug it in and it sounds good. You don't need to EQ it just to make it sound normal. There's no high-end fizz, and it's just going to sound good for your voice, whether that's radio, voiceovers, gaming, streaming, any sort of voice application. There's clearly a lot of competition at this price range at £99, so I wanted to draw attention to something you may not have heard of, and something that specifically is handmade in small batches, very sustainably and ethically here in the UK. But let's just start by looking at some of the specs, then the design, and then we'll do some audio tests. So this is a dynamic microphone, which means you don't need to power it using phantom power. You just plug it straight into your audio interface using an XLR cable, and it's good to go. One thing I would say is that with the sensitivity of the microphone, it doesn't really matter which audio interface you use. I guarantee you'll be able to get a ton of volume, a ton of gain out of this. I don't have it turned the whole way up, and I'm already hitting a really healthy signal. A lot of podcast microphones, especially more expensive ones, actually require a cloud lifter, which is another piece of equipment you have to buy for about £150 or so, just to get the gain up to a usable level. Now, the design of this microphone being a supercardioid capsule in there, there's no electronics that are producing hiss and hum inside the microphone itself. The frequency response of the microphone is from 50 Hz up to 15 kilohertz. Now, a lot of microphones at this price point go all the way up to 20,000 Hz, but what I find is that this just gives them a load of hiss and fizz and just nonsense in the high end. When very expensive microphones have an extended frequency response, it typically can sound quite smooth and nice, but on the sort of budget end of microphones, this top end is usually unnecessary and usually just sounds really fizzy. One of the characteristics of this microphone is supposed to be a very smooth top end, so you've still got a lot of detail in the voice, you've clearly got a lot of warmth there, but it's just supposed to sound smooth, and there's also a little bit of a tuned dip at around 5 to 8K, again to try and help with sibilance. If we take a look at the design of the microphone, clearly Sontronics are known for their very beautiful design work. But this design is not only beautiful, it's also designed to help reduce plosives, reduce sibilance, and also increase the directionality of the microphone. So it really is just picking up stuff in front of it here, and it has superb rejection from the sides and back, which you'll see later in the video when I test it in an untreated room. The idea behind tuning this capsule and this casing together is that it gives you the right microphone specifically for voice applications. And what I mean by this is that you don't have to do much, if any, post-processing to get this thing to sound good. Every single microphone I've ever owned, especially for voice, I always have to denoise because they produce so much self-noise. I always have to reduce the sibilance, use de-essers, reduce plosives, I have to reduce mouth noises, adjust the tonal balance of them, whereas out of the box, this is already tuned to sound good. Of course, you might want to add some more compression if you want to, some limiting, but you don't have to EQ this thing like crazy to sound good. To help me describe this, I'm going to paraphrase or quote the designer, Trevor. He said, if you're going to record, if you want like a Telecaster tone, you wouldn't grab like a Les Paul or a Stratocaster, record that, and then EQ it to sound like a Telecaster. If you want to record a Telecaster, you'd record a Tele. The idea with this microphone is exactly that. It should pick up your voice and you don't have to EQ it like crazy just to make it sound okay. Quickly going back to the design again, the dimensions are about 180 by 80 by 60 millimeters, give or take, and it weighs only 310 grams, which makes it very light compared to virtually all of the competition. Now, it's a full metal construction, it's designed in Britain, it's sturdy, so it definitely feels sturdy. But being light, it means that you don't need a super strong stand, because lots of the competition, which are 2 or 3 times heavier than this, if you don't have a pretty good mic stand, you'll find that the mic stand drops just because of the sheer weight of it, and you wonder what all that weight is really doing in there. This one is nice and light. Whatever I've put it on, it just stays in place, and I've just got this peace of mind that it's going to stay there and just behave. As well as testing it in here, I also tested it in my very noisy, untreated city apartment, so I'm just going to cut to that now so you can take a listen. This part of the video is a good chance to see how the Sontronics Podcast Pro copes in a sort of worst case scenario. So I'm in an extremely reverberant room. Right outside there's a load of traffic, so I'll just switch to the camera audio and you can hear all of that right now. You can also hear that it's just a very reverberant room. It's just not really the place you want to be recording a podcast in. Very much a worst case scenario. But I'll just swap back to the Podcast Pro in just a moment and you can hear the sound difference. It does a really good job of cutting out all of that traffic, all those seagulls and all that noise outside, and does a pretty good job of controlling the reverberation in the room. Obviously, if you get really nice and up close to the microphone like this, it makes it a lot more bassy, makes use of the proximity effect, and this is how a lot of professional broadcasters are used to speaking into a microphone, very close. And you have to control your voice, because if you move and drift around a little bit, the sound changes quite dramatically on every microphone. What I found to be nice about the Podcast Pro is you don't need to be even nearly this close to get a good result. So if I just increase the gain, but I move back a little bit, it's certainly not as bassy as being up close to the microphone, but it still sounds quite balanced. And while you're hearing a little bit more of the room noise, there's no audible static or hiss or anything like that, because there's no electronics in here that are generating any self noise. So if I were to stop talking for a moment, you're not really going to hear any hiss. You're just going to hear a bit of noise from the city and from the room. The benefit of not needing to get so close to this microphone to get a good tone, and I'm a bit further away than it looks on the camera, the perspective's a bit misleading, is that as a host, you might be very comfortable getting close to a microphone, but guests and people that are not familiar with speaking into microphones, they very, very rarely want to be close to the microphone. And having a microphone where you're a bit further away, it means that you can move around a little bit more and still actually get quite a good sound. It's not going to change dramatically. It's designed to sound smooth, so you shouldn't need any EQ to handle sibilants or plosives or anything like that. So if I say a disastrous sentence for sibilants, Shirley saying she sells seashells by the seashore, it shouldn't really take your ears off. They should just sound like S's, and they shouldn't sound like really sharp whistles. So hopefully that worked. And if I talk around the microphone just to show you the rejection, again, if I start talking to the side, you can't really hear anything besides the reflections coming off and back through the front. It really does have incredible rejection, and I can't stress enough just how loud it is outside right now. But no, I'm really impressed with how it handles even this really bad situation. Although I was using headphones in my apartment, I want to say that once I got back to the studio, it was only then that I realized quite how noiseless this microphone really is, and I probably didn't even need to be so close to it and really to try and eliminate all of the background noise. Something that I really want to highlight again is, unlike other microphones, just to avoid some room noise or hiss, you don't need to be so close to this microphone. It's actually really pleasant talking a little bit further away from a microphone, especially if you're a guest on a podcast show, or if maybe you're gaming and you don't want to have your mouth sort of just pressed up against a microphone. You'd rather just sit back and just relax and enjoy yourself. I've just got a few more points to wrap up this review. Firstly, who isn't this microphone for? If you want just one microphone to do everything in your studio, maybe you work in pro audio, you want to record guitars, basses, guitar cabs, voices, everything, I would probably recommend maybe a different microphone in the Sontronics range. I do think this is ideally suited for radio, voice, broadcasting, and you can use it to record virtually anything, of course, but I think some of their other microphones would be better suited as an absolute all-rounder. But if you're getting into podcasting, or you need to buy multiple microphones and you can't afford buying a $300-400 microphone, this is definitely the one to go for. And the reasons I feel so confident recommending it are because the price is right, it's made ethically and sustainably in the UK, which is something that a lot of other brands cannot say, and I'm not going to name and shame, I don't want to get into any kind of trouble like that. And finally, being a UK company, they offer a free lifetime warranty that is worth so much more than the paper it's printed on. They are a UK company, they are so proud of what they do. Trevor, Lisa, the whole team at Sontronics, they are so passionate about design, the craft, the elegance of microphones, and you can just see it in the design of this and in the sound of it. They really care about what they're doing, they stand behind their products, and that's a quality that I think is lacking in this day and age, and it's something that really resonates deeply with me, and it makes me very proud to sort of use my channel to showcase and promote this microphone. Even though this is not in any way sponsored, I'm just very proud to showcase this microphone that you may not have heard of. So please do ask me any questions, put them all in the comments section, let me know what you thought of it, whether this sort of thing interests you, and hopefully I will see you in the next video too. Have a great week, guys. Bye for now.